NBA 2K20 tutorial number 39. Today we're going to discuss what kind of stat lines you're going to need to beat the Combine as a guard. So we will study in detail why ORTG, your offensive rating, is important and why is it okay to play differently. And if you enjoy my tutorials and my videos and you would like to see more on gameplay and Combine, you can click on the link above or below for my all 2K20 tutorials playlist, where I guarantee you'll find more videos to help you improve your game. And to my regular subscribers, I know recently the content's been very Combine heavy, which is not something you expect, and I appreciate your understanding because part of my other work is to work in for the 2K League for Bucks Gaming, so I'm just doing these Combine videos to help out a lot of the amateur players who are aiming to go pro in the 2K League. So if you're a regular subscriber and this is not the content you sign up for, I apologize deeply, but I gotta help out these guys. It's a dream for them and they try to achieve their dream, so bear with me and check out the content yourself because I actually find this interesting. It's less about gameplay until the Combine comes out, but there's a lot about math and understanding, teamwork, team basketball, and how to play well statistically. So thank you for your understanding, regular subscribers, and for the Combine, for the guys going for Combine, best of luck, and allow me to give my best shot to help you understand exactly what you gotta do. Okay, so first things first, we have to understand what offensive rating is if you are trying to get into the Combine as an attack guard. So an attacking point guard or an attacking shooting guard. So essentially a playmaker or sharp, okay? And plenty of you and plenty of others are going to try to get into the league as that. So your offensive rating essentially means the amount of points you score per 100 possessions of which you are involved in. And involved possessions can mean a few different things. It's defined differently. So some of these definitions have positive impact that increases your ORTG, and others have negative effects that lowers your ORTG. I will get into exactly what they are after this, but what you gotta understand first is the highest ORTG score possible is around 300, and the lowest you can get is 0. Okay? So positive involved possessions that count towards your ORTG, your offensive rating, are scoring possessions by you on your shots attempts or on assists made by you. So that's one scoring possession that counts as an involved possession for you. And other ones are also times where your team scores via a team assist, offensive rebound, or field goals made. Okay? So just this alone, you have to understand, you are actually positively rewarded in the Combine, obviously when you score and you made an assist, but at the same time, if your team score and your team gets an assist, you are also going to be rewarded. So contrary to popular belief, if you play the Combine and your team, and somehow you play in a way where your teammates scores a ton of points per 100 possessions that you are on the floor playing, that's actually good for you and it reflects you very, very well. You don't have to do all the scoring and make all the assists. As long as you can get your teammates to do it, you'll still be good. Now, if your teammates are missing, obviously, let me discuss that later. But what you gotta understand first is, it's good that you make shots and you get assists and free throws. But at the same time, it's also good if your team gets assists on their own and they make shots on their own. Alright, now let's look at negative involved possessions. Now, that counts towards your ORTG. These are when field goals and missed possessions by your shot attempts, missed free throw possessions by you, and possessions where you turn over the ball. Alright, so if any of those three things happens, that counts negatively towards your ORTG because they count as an involved possession. And if you do that 100 times in a row, let's say you turn the ball 100 times, turn the ball over 100 times in a row, you will have a ORTG of 0 because you scored 0 points in those 100 possessions where you are involved, right? But vice versa, let's say if you get 100 assists, right, on, dumping the ball down into the paint, your ORTG will be at 200. And that would be like the highest ever in Combine ever. Like the highest ever is only about 180 something. So yeah. So these are concepts you have to understand, because if your team scores, it's good for your ORTG when you're playing on the floor. But if your team miss, that doesn't hurt you. Like if you have a guy, like say if you're playing with a bricklayer 12 and he only taking ISO shots and he's missing everything, that doesn't hurt your ORTG. Would I give you an L? Maybe, but it does not hurt your ORTG, which is a big part of measuring your success as a scoring guard. Okay, so I know this could be, some of you probably understand this really easily and some might be confused. So if you have questions on this, leave it in the comments now and I'll try to answer it for you. Just what you gotta understand is, it's about ORTG is about 100 possessions you're on the floor that you are involved with, that you're either doing good or bad, and then you're gonna get a score. Your team scoring is good, you scoring is good, you making free throws is good, your team making free throws is good, you missing is bad, you turning the ball over is bad, you missing free throws is really bad, but if your teams are missing shots, it's okay. That doesn't hurt your ORTG. Alright? Next thing in regards to offensive rating. So in the end, you will have a per 100% scoring number. Like I said, the highest in Combine Season 2 was around 180, and that actually means, yes, 180 points were scored every 100 possession this guy played in the Combine. So for every 100 possession Mr. 180 played in the Combine, his team scored 180 points. That's a lot of points per 100 possessions. And now we'll look at stat lines of point guards and sharps that made the pool in Season 2, and we will study what kind of amazing stat line you are going to need to get in, like the ones they had. We're going to focus on the most valuable stats for attack guards, which are winning percentage, effective field goal percentage, ORTG, and usage rate. So please watch Combine tutorial in the playlist. I'll make a Combine tutorial playlist. You can check my main channel page for that if you want to see more Combine vids. Go to video 1 of that playlist if you don't know what EFG and usage rate are. Okay, so let's look at point guard, main handlers, and these are the best and worst pool player stat lines for point guard. So player A was the best one, it's like a top 3, and player B was the worst one, like a bottom 3 player stat line. But either way, these are the stat lines that made it as point guard. Player A is a top 3, player B is a bottom 3, everything in between obviously made it. So that's why I wanted to lay it out for you, that guy. So for that way, so you understand, anything better than player A, you're in, anything worse than player B, you're probably out, and anything between player A and player B, you're good. And this was the final 25, so there's only 25 stat lines like this. Okay, so let me break it down in detail. So by traditional stats, player A scored 30 points per game at 17 assists a game with 3.5 turnovers. Those stats don't really matter at all in your Combine pool stat line. I'm just showing you the traditional stats so you guys can understand better. But what you want to look at is the advanced stats, those key metrics, key advanced statistics I've talked to you guys about. So players A's winning percentage is at 83%. His ORTG is at 174. That means every 100 offensive possessions that he was involved in, he usually scores about 174 points in total. Him and his team scores 174 points in total. His effective field goal percentage was at 97%, and his usage rate was at 32. Now let's look at player B. Traditional stats, he scored 25 points a game at 13 assists while averaging 4 turnovers. His winning percentage was 71, his ORTG was 172, his effective field goal was 90, and his usage rate was at 26. So, by comparison, player A does everything better than player B. That's just facts. But that's not necessarily bad for player B, because player B doing what he did also got into the pool and into the final draft, the top 150. So what you're really seeing here is, if you're aiming to be player A, then that's goals obviously, because those are elite stats. But player B is more achievable. As you can see, his winning percentage is about 12% lower, and we're talking about attacking, playmaking point guard here. So you can expect that to be the cutoff for point guards, at least for last season, at 70%. As the Combine in Season 3 changes, I'll tell you guys what the market number is, but 70% is usually the cutoff for point guards. And then if you look at the ORTG, this is the interesting part. Player A is a lot better in majority of the stats, traditional-wise and advanced-wise, but his ORTG is very, very similar to player B. So what does this mean? Now this means player A is likely the better player, but player B, although being statistically inferior to player A, his style and just the way he plays with his teammates actually helps his team scores a tons of points too at 172 points. That's a lot of points. And remember, he's scoring 5 points less with 4 less assists and with a lower usage rate, but he's helping his team for every 100 possessions he's playing and to score just as much. So you cannot possibly calculate your own offensive rating after the game. It's just, statistically speaking, is too much of an endeavor. I'm letting you know how important ORTG is because it is important and you need to know about it because you have to understand. If you look at player B, and just the traditional stats, he seems way worse than player A, but his ORTG is almost the same. So per 100 possessions they're on the floor, these two are producing almost the same amount of overall team points. And the combined values that. That's likely why player A did make it into the pool, because his ORTG was so dang high at 172. So it means if you can help your team score in other ways, even if you're not getting an assist or a point or any, real traditional stat, you're still being recorded as a great player advance wise. That's what ORTG is about, and that's what you gotta understand. Now EFG, once again, by player B is at 97% difference between A and B, which is huge. But what you have to understand is, for those of you thinking about like 60 or 70% or 50, even 55% field goal is good or something, it's not. The people who make the pool, their advanced stat lines, so attacking playmakers, like EFGs were at like 90 plus. 90 plus. Does that sound crazy to you? Maybe it does. Is it actually crazy? Maybe it is, but that's how good you gotta be to make it in, let's say, top 25 point guard stat line. Because now we're not even talking top 150, top 200, top 2. We're not. We're talking top 25 to be a point guard. That's what it comes down to, and that's how good the competition is in terms of EFG. I'm not going to mention the EFG formula here because you can check out the combat tutorial number 1 for that. But that's how your EFG's got to be, and that's what you're going up against. Player B was already like a bottom tier point guard pool stat line, and his EFG was at 90. I keep saying bottom tier and inferior for player B, but absolutely he isn't. It's just relatively speaking, he is. So that's the EFG you're looking at least for last season. And usage rate, as you can see, that's another thing about player B. His usage rate is at 26%. That was actually the lowest usage rate for the point guards that made it into the pool. This means player B is truly a team first guy. Like, he's not here to score a lot. He's really not here to use the ball too much he wants his teams to do well. He's probably the guy that's doing the extra passes, encouraging his teams to back cut, like just giving the hot guy the ball and just spacing out and watching him go to work. That's why player B's usage rate is so low, but his ORTG is so high. To put this in IRL terms, a player like Giannis, so if you watch a lot of NBA basketball, Giannis' current usage rate this season is at 34%. Chris Middleton is sitting at about 22%. And Chris Middleton's not even a point guard. So player B, playing in a combine, which was very point guard heavy and I guess full of ball hawks, at 26% usage rate, this was probably like the best team first guy you were ever going to meet in the combine. And that's who player B was, and because of that, he made it in. Player A at 32% usage was around the average, so like you're looking at Giannis level kind of usage. So does he touch the ball a lot? Sure. But is he getting 17 assists? Yeah. And his team is still scoring a ton, and he wins a lot, and when he does shoot, he's shooting at 97% EFG. So even though player A has a high usage rate, it doesn't really hurt him in the overall stat line because he's so great in the other stats. And understand, his usage rate is not that high. Like, there are people that are at 38 and 40. Those are too high. That's what it is. But player B at 26 usage rate, that's amazing for combine. So between player A and player B, now you understand you can even make it in as different playing style, because player A was much more ball dominant. Player B literally wasn't. 26% for a point guard, for a combine point guard is like literally he's moving the ball all the damn time. So you can make it in either way. Winning percentage, that's the minimum right there. ORTG, that's key. So that's what you got to understand for point guard, main handlers, attackers. And if you got any questions on that, you can ask in the comment section or ask me on Twitter, and I'll let you guys know. Now let's take a look at shooting guards, or sharps, secondary ball handlers. And here are two contrasting styles that both made the pool. And from a statistical point of view, at least advanced stat wise, these two are pretty good. Like, these are about a little bit higher than middle of the pack. So if you have better stat line than these two, you'll likely make it. And if you just have slightly worse, you will also make it in also. So let's take a look at player A. Traditional stats, 36 points per game, 6.5 assists at 3.5 turnovers, winning percentage of 71, ORTG of 164, effective field goal of 91%, usage rate at 35. Player B, traditional stats, 28 points per game, 5 assists, 1.5 turnovers, 71% winning rate, 180 offensive rating, 93 effective field goal, 26% usage rate. So, what you're looking at here. Player A obviously was extremely ball dominant. Now remember previously the 2 point guards we talked about, we had a 26% usage rate for our team-friendly point guard, and also for our ball-dominant point guard, he was at 32%. This guy, player A, was a pure sharp. So he was a sharp secondary ball handler, and he was at 35% usage rate. So that's more than Giannis. More than Giannis. That's like literally JJ Redick touching the ball and using the ball more than Giannis. That's what's happening here with player A. So was he a combine ball hawk as a pure sharp? Absolutely. But was he productive? Winning wise, yes, but if you look really closely, he scored a ton of points, but his ORTG is the lowest we have seen today. Now, still, you know, these numbers are relative. 164 is still really good, okay? Like if you can score 164 points per 100 possessions you were involved in the combine, you're a GOAT. That's still a lot of points, but compared to his elite counterparts, that's not too high. So this is what you gotta understand. You can be scoring 36 points a game and you look at yourself like, oh, I'm better than player B here, or I'm even better than player A and player B from the point guard section, but you're not. It depends on your ORTG because your team isn't scoring as much as the other guys. Now, player A still made it into the pool because 164 is still really high, but he was kind of pushing it. And his EFG is also, once again, very high, but relatively low at 91. And usage rate was incredibly high, so that's already a little bit punishing for his stats. Player A, from a traditional stats point of view, is very good at 36, 6.5, and 3.5 turnovers. But from an advanced metric point of view, for the pure sharps or attacking secondary ball handlers that made it into the pool, his stat line wasn't that great if you look at the advanced stat line. And it wasn't. Like, he was likely actually probably a bottom tier pure sharp stat line, even though scoring 36 points. Now, did he still make the pool? Yes, but those are his advanced stats. Now, player B, at only 28 points, 5 assists, but 1.5 turnovers. These two have the same winning percentage, but player B had one of the greatest ORTG in the combine, and he was by far the best pure sharp for ORTG. So, and his usage rate is only at 26%. So literally, and 93% EFG, so incredible shooting. So literally, this was your ideal pure sharp teammate in the combine. This is the guy that was running around trying to get you open. And if he's open, he was going to make it. And he probably will get into the mid-range and get into the deep range. And he's going to hit everything. And at the same time, when he has the ball, he likes to pass. And when he does pass, he usually gets an assist, and he rarely turns the ball over. This was literally like the pure shot that probably doesn't dribble that much. And when he does dribble, they're very smart and very safe dribbles. Player B was a way better pure sharp in the combine than player A. And that's, if you look at traditional stats, you would never think that, but his playing style was way better. And when you look at the pool value, player B was way higher than player A. Like, player B was like a top pure sharp. And if it means anything, respect to both of these players. They're both great players in the league. But currently in the league right now, player B is much more accomplished, and he's a better player, and he's a more involved player. So does that reflect in the ORTG? Maybe. I'm not saying yes, maybe it is, because the ORTG discrepancy here is huge. It's 16 points. And player B is finding ways to help his team score 16 more points per 100 possessions than player A, while scoring 8 points less and using the ball almost 10% less. So player B is a much better team player, while player A is an individual superstar. That's what you gotta understand. But the combine, statistic-wise, player B is actually more value. So for those of you thinking of, I'm going to go in as a secondary ball pure sharp and I'm going to light it up, you're thinking like player A, you might end up with those traditional stats, but you'll be bottom tier on the pool. And if player A didn't score 36, let's say he was at 33 and he only has 4 assists, like 33 points, 4 assists is still crazy for a pure sharp, but he might not have made it. in advanced stat wise, because player A was on the verge of not making it from an advanced stats point of view, because he did a lot number wise, but he was not as efficient and he wasn't as good for his team. Someone like player B, if you look at his pure sharp stat line, you'd be like, oh, this guy probably didn't make it at only 28 and 5. No. Player B was always gonna make it, because his ORTG was at 180 and his usage rate was so low, and they're both above like the 70% winning cutoff again. Like 68% is probably the cutoff for pure sharps, but they both made it. Their winning was good enough. But advanced stat point of view, player B is infinitely better. But then you'd be like, Sam, but they end up with the same winning rate. True. But that could be attributed to other things. Like, you have to understand, at 40 games, like if you take one extra L, that's like a couple of winning percentage off, right? So at a huge sample size, if player A continuously to produce 164 per 100 possessions and player B is producing 180 per 100 possessions and they're both pure sharps, over a course of 1,000 games, player B is going to win more. They ended up at 71% because they both played, not that many games at 40 something. But if we're talking about a sample size of 1,000 games, player B will be better. And player B did end up being the better player in the league. So there's that. So those are the pure sharp stat lines you are looking at. If you got any questions, once again, you can ask me in the comment section. Both these stat lines, staggering numbers, sure, they really are. I mean, they are. Like, if you go back and look at the point guard ones are staggering, the pure sharp ones are staggering. And like I said, any kind of comments I've made towards the comparison between player A and player B from shooting guard and point guard, it's relative. They're all fantastic players, and they all had great combined stat lines. But I'm telling you, player A here for the shooting guard, he was having, that would be like a bottom level advanced stat line, bottom 5 maybe. And then player B at the point guard section, he was probably having a bottom 3 point guard stat line. So that's what you have to achieve to make it in. Don't focus on traditional stats, look at the advanced stats, and I've taught you how to calculate the advanced stats, so you can calculate those on your own. Can I do it for you? Sure, but I can't do it for all of you. Like, during the combine, I will try my best to calculate advanced stat lines for people that ask me or show me the streams. I'll make tutorials on how to do it, but I cannot do it for thousands and thousands of you. That's just not something I can possibly do. I mean, I probably could, but there's nobody pays me enough to do that. That's a lot of work. That's really hard to do. But anyhow, those are the stat lines you have for attack guards. I'll probably move into other positions next. Let me know what you guys want to see next. And if you got any questions, comment section, and also add me on Twitter at SamFam20 for timeline updates. As always, thanks for coming by. Best of luck in the combine. I'm trying all I can to help you guys, so let me know what you need help on, and I'll speak to you guys again very soon.